everybody, and welcome to my channel. My name is Yelena Crawford. If we haven't met already, then welcome. I am an intuitive astrologer, and this is your weekly astrology forecast. So today we're going to be doing a forecast for September 23rd, which is Thursday, all the way through next Wednesday, which is nearing the end of the month, September 29th. And fingers crossed that I'm able to get through this recording, because I have been having some Mercury retrograde and Venus opposing Uranus issues here affecting my home. We've got some crazy weather here in Michigan right now, and my electricity has just been flickering on and off, constantly resetting my internet. So fingers crossed that this gets through, but we've got a lot to talk about today. Thank you to all of my subscribers who are always here. If you're not already subscribed, make sure to tap the subscribe button below, as well as the little bell icon next to it, so you'll be notified of all the videos that I post. Make sure to tap that like button if you benefit from this content, and leave me a comment below. I love to get comments from you guys. I love to interact, hear how the astrology is resonating for you, and hear your stories. I think we all learn from each other. Just a couple more side notes here. I do use the tropical Western zodiac with a mix of modern and traditional Hellenistic concepts. I also do personal readings. So if you are interested in making more sense of what's going on in your life at this time, you can book a personal reading with me at yelenacrawford.com. I also have all the information down in the description box for you below, so you can find all of my pricing and the link for how to schedule your reading and everything. And you can also email me at info@yelenacrawford.com if you have any questions at all at any time. Okay, let's go ahead and move forward with this in hopes that we can get everything in before the power goes out again. So I'm just going to share my screen with you guys. This is the chart, which will start off the weekly forecast. So on the screen today, we've got September 23rd, which is Thursday. So basically, the transit that we are going to be discussing today on Thursday, September 27th is very interesting, because we've got all this stuff going on with Mercury and this upcoming Mercury retrograde that's happening in Libra. It's been connecting with Pluto. It's been connecting with Saturn. And then the ruler of this Mercury retrograde, because it's in Libra, Venus rules Libra. Whatever happens with Venus is going to be very, very prominent and important to everything that happens with the Venus retrograde, because all of it's taking place in Venus's house, right? We know that Venus is not so well dignified over here in the sign of Scorpio in her detriment. But on this day, we've got this connection, as you can see right here, between Venus at 14 degrees of Scorpio and Uranus over here in Venus's other sign of Taurus. Venus rules Libra and it rules Taurus. Uranus doesn't fare very well in Taurus either. It's also what's known as in its fall position. So these two planets are not really doing so well, and they're opposing each other. And we've got this big Mercury retrograde period coming up, and just a lot of stuff that's happening. You guys, I told you that the fall and winter astrology is not for the faint of heart. We are moving into a more challenging time period. So just to kind of backtrack a little bit, we have entered Libra season. The sun yesterday on the equinox entered Libra. And the equinox, when the sun enters Libra, is the time each year when there are equal amounts of light and dark, which I kind of touched on in last week's forecast. But if you look at this teaching tool in traditional astrology, which is known as the Thema Mundi, it's the birth chart of the entire universe. Down here at the bottom of the chart, which is known as the underworld, right? The shadow, the darkness. It was also known as Hades. It is ruled by Libra. And it's when the sun makes its descent down into the underworld, we start to lose light and darkness starts to prevail, which is very symbolic of the time when a lot of us are recommended to dive into these shadow qualities and aspects of ourselves, whether do we do that consciously or whether life circumstances take us down that dark alleyway, right? Where we actually descend into our own shadow as well. So it's really an interesting time. And Libra is also all about balance, right? Bringing things in balance, especially relational dynamics. All of our relationships are a mirror, which I do plan to talk about that a little bit later, but sometimes it can be uncomfortable and a little bit challenging to be made aware or to find out somehow that we are out of balance, right? That can be, it can be very disheartening sometimes and really uncomfortable to realize that, and realize that we have to change and we have to pivot and we have to do something to help balance the scales, right? Because Libra is a cardinal sign. It's the sign that changes seasons, and it represents taking action, initiating things, and making changes to bring ourselves into more of this balanced state, where we can achieve more peace and balance and harmony, which are all Venus things, right? So basically, now we can move into this Venus opposing Uranus dynamic. So Venus is over here in the sign of Scorpio. And I think that this could potentially, because Venus is tied in with this Mercury retrograde has a lot to do with our mental faculties, the mind, how we process information, and how we filter information out to other people and things like that. So Venus rules over money and relationships. We already know Libra season, relationships are very prominent. And where's Uranus? Uranus is in Taurus. Taurus is a sign that also rules over material things like money, right? So I think that there is a potential here where on this day or the days around it, maybe Wednesday, it could have started Thursday or Friday, the 24th. We could be getting some unexpected information as it pertains to our money. That could be like shifts or revelations or epiphanies or things that really change certain dynamics related to our money circumstances. Maybe it has a relation to our jobs, or maybe relationship dynamics that we're in. And this can be kind of unexpected. It could potentially be chaotic. It could cause a lot of change. Uranus rules all of these types of things: chaos, change, things that are sudden and unexpected that shake us up. But it also serves as an awakening. And Venus has everything to do with what we value. So maybe this is shaking us up to the realization that we are having misplaced values, where we're not putting our value into something, right? Like we should be. Maybe we've lost track of where we're supposed to be heading in terms of our relationships or our money or our goals moving forward. And we really need to be kind of awakened and shaken. And this could even have to do with our self-worth, right? Maybe we are giving too much of ourselves over to another person. We're not truly being valued or something like that. This can cause some serious instability, maybe in relationships and with our finances, that are, like I said, shaking up the structures and foundations of our lives. It's not really a promising energy for relationships. So if you are maybe dating, or you're trying to start a new relationship or a new friendship or a new business partnership or something like that, dealing with contracts or negotiations or anything with along those lines, it's probably not the best time to do that. We're really going to be focusing on what we value, what we feel may be holding us back, where we feel like we might want more freedom or more closeness, and recommitment within relationship dynamics. We might bring into focus where we feel stuck or stagnant and where that may be shaken up. Maybe we have some instability that's causing us a lack of balance and harmony in life that really needs to be brought into focus and observed. It might even be brought into focus where you need to compromise more within relationships with other people, where you might be being a little bit too rigid or dogmatic or something like that. Or even with Venus being in this deep sign of Scorpio, it might show you where you truly crave more of a depth, more soul within relational dynamics, and where you might not be getting that right, where you need to be freed and liberated from a certain circumstance so that you can get what you truly want, right? Because this really is all about us valuing ourselves, whether we're in relationship with another person or not. That mirror dynamic that we get from our relationships, whether we like what we see in this other person or not, says a lot about the state that we're truly in with ourselves. Okay. So, when you think of the mirror, it's not like you really are seeing yourself in another person. You're really just seeing the state of your relationship with yourself through your relationships with other people. So if you and your spouse aren't really grooving in one way or another, it's best, especially with this Mercury retrograde approaching, that you look within. Anything with the Venus and Scorpio is being willing to look deeper, being willing to see the truth, being willing to look a little bit deeper, finding more depth within relationships, finding more depth within friendships. And if you're not getting those types of things, then making the decision to value yourself and move on from them. Or if a situation isn't transforming to suit your current needs and who you really are at this time period, then maybe you need to move on, right? Okay, so basically, I think we got the point across that Venus transits are extra important during this time. Not to mention at the end of the year, we're going to be going into a Venus retrograde, which we're not going to cover today, but Venus is huge right now. So everything that happens with her is very big. So this week may start off with something sudden, something unexpected that might awaken you, could potentially feel really uncomfortable and chaotic at first, could really result in feeling liberated, right? Or you getting information that you need to really make a change, right? So it could potentially be a good thing. Don't look on the surface with the Scorpio energy. Try and see it for the depth that it really is, okay? So I'm just going to tell you right away, this potentially could be more challenging for those with fixed sign placements. So if you have planets or points like the ascendant, descendant, midheaven, or the IC in the fixed signs, which are Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius, and Leo, between, I would say, the degrees of 9 and 19, this will be hitting you hard. So it will either be a conjunction, an opposition, or a square, which are the more challenging aspects. So that could potentially be a lot more supercharged for you specifically. And if not, then it could prove to just be something very minor that you might not even notice at all. It just really depends on how it specifically hits your natal chart. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to move on. So on Friday, September 24th, the only thing that I want to point out here is that the moon will be connecting with Uranus. Now, wherever the moon goes, it shines light on certain dynamics. So we look at the moon from day to day to kind of get the overall mood of what is going on. So as you can see, the moon will be connecting right there with Uranus and also opposing Venus over here, which is kind of highlighting that dynamic that was taking place from Wednesday to Thursday. So basically, Venus transiting through Scorpio, Libra season, all of these dynamics opposing Uranus, the great awakener, it's really working to balance out where we may not be in alignment with what we truly want and what we truly desire moving forward, right? Maybe we don't even really know what we truly want and desire, and Uranus awakened us to the very fact of what that might be, or gave us little hints about what that might be, helping us to take a deeper look at things. Okay. So basically, I just wanted to give a little story too about what this could potentially mean, because I think that a dynamic that happened with me on Wednesday, and it sucks sometimes putting yourself out there and telling like really personal stories like this, but I think that it really helps. And we all go through things like this on a daily basis, and it may help for me to share something like this. But for instance, I had a big revelation, and I really do believe that it's tied in with this dynamic, because Uranus is hitting my natal Mercury. And, it really gave me this insight about like how I operate in relationships with other people to help me move forward. And when I was at yoga, I love one of the teachers. She's just such a sweetheart, and I go to her class every single week. And usually she's always like, hi, says hi to me and all these things. And yesterday, the class was just really busy and the energy was very heavy. I think we were still carrying over from the full moon. And I didn't get the hello, and like it was just, it was a little bit different. And of course, automatically I start making it all about myself. I told you this is a little bit more vulnerable, so just bear with me, you guys. I'm willing to put myself out there to give you guys a good example, but and I'm thinking like, oh my God, wonder if I did something, or she doesn't like me now for some reason. And I'm like, why am I thinking these things, right? And why am I making it all about myself? And I'm like feeling bad about myself, and I'm realizing that like my worth, sometimes I base my own self-worth off of other people's validation of me. And this has been an ongoing theme. And I know it's a theme in a lot of people's lives. And I think that this is something that's huge during Libra season, right? And I'm like, what if it was about her? What if she was having a challenging day? What if it was because the room was chaotic and there were barely any spots left on the floor? The class was so packed. And, all of these things combined, she just didn't have time to acknowledge me or say hi. Like, I need to stop relying so much on this external validation, right? And I think that epiphany, that awakening moment for me made me realize, like, well, hell, at least I have the awareness of it, right? And I can continue to work through that. Even though it was uncomfortable for me, I'm aware and I'm awake to it. And I can catch it and notice it when it happens again. And these are all just big dynamics that I know are going to be playing a significant role in Mercury retrograde. So it's little things like that, you guys, that you want to keep an eye out for in relationship dynamics with other people, how you operate within those relationships, right? That Mercury retrograde is trying to teach you a lesson. And yes, sometimes it might be uncomfortable to come back into harmony, to come back into balance with yourself. Libra and Scorpio energy. It's having us take a deeper, darker look at the darker side of relational dynamics, like codependency, like this need for external validation and jealousy. Maybe we have a lot of jealousy, or maybe we're super possessive within relationships. Maybe we're just codependent. We are totally reliant on other people for our own happiness, right? I'm sure a lot of us have been in those relationship dynamics where if the partner was in a bad mood, we couldn't possibly be in a good mood because our mood depends on the partner. I know that was me totally in the past. I've done so much work on myself to help heal that, but there's always little remnants of it left, right? I don't ever pretend to ever be 100% healed. That's just totally not where I'm at all. Maybe it's the need to control other people, this need to dominate or manipulate, or you being the victim of that and not standing in your own power and truly valuing yourself. So where you're giving your power too much over to other people. Anyways, these are just a bunch of different examples just to help you guys kind of wrap your mind around how all of this is fitting in your box of life, right? Okay, so enough with that. Let's go ahead. I'm going to clear that up and we are going to move on to Saturday. So keep in mind, I mean, a lot of these transits, the energy will carry through to the next day and they kind of all coincide with each other. I just think sometimes it helps to go day to day, but here we are, Saturday, September 25th. And the dynamic that I want to talk about today is Mars is going to be, and Mars is right over here. As you can see, the sun is almost conjoined Mars. There is a lot of energy right here. Mars is our action, our ambition, our drive to achieve and get things done. It's our energy, it's our life force. And the sun holds a lot of those same characteristics. It's our vitality. It's what we need to thrive in life and truly make us happy. It's our passion. So these two planets together is a very powerful, powerful force, although both of the planets are not very well dignified in the sign of Libra. So they're kind of like taking a little bit of a hit. But looking past that a little bit, we've got a trine, which is a beautiful aspect over here to Saturn. Now, interestingly, we've got two planets that are very malefic, which bring challenging circumstances, right? That's what malefic planets mean. It's not a benefic planet that brings all the things we love and joy and all the things we really look forward to, connection with friends and gifts and money and presents, all those things. Malefic planets bring challenges that spur us to grow. But it can suck. Let's be real from time to time. But when these two planets that are malefic are connecting in a trine is the aspect and communication of ease and flow and harmony. So it naturally kind of brings the more positive nature out of the planets. And I think a lot of these challenges that a lot of us are going to be faced with right now, there's this air of drive and ambition and motivation that no matter what the hell stands in our way, we are going to get through it and we're going to make this freaking happen, right? Because this Mercury over here, even though it's connecting very harshly over to Pluto in a square, It's also connecting over to Jupiter, which is the big benefic. It is the most positive planet, one of the most positive planets that brings optimism. So I feel like there's this motivation and there's this optimism that nothing can stand in my freaking way right now. We're going to plow through it no matter what obstacles we're faced with, right? So there's a really positive dynamic that's going on here. Whatever challenges, no matter what roadblocks, no matter what hurdles we have to move through, this is supercharging our motivation, our determination to power through them, right? It's like a car that just blasts through something that might be a barrier. And it's giving us this discipline, not only the drive, but the discipline and the staying power to achieve something over the course of a long period of time, to build certain structures and foundations, and to achieve long-term goals. And I was going to say, if you have a long-term goal that you want to start working towards at this time, or that you've already started working toward, right now is a great time to recommit and take action towards that. Especially starting this Saturday, when this aspect is connecting exact, this would be a really good time. Just to give you guys another little example, I like to give stories if I have them, but I can really relate to this dynamic that's going on right now. Mars is in my fourth house of home, and I'm planning for a big move. And I know that it's not coming as soon as I would like it to be. It's going to be in the next like 4.5 months, but I have so much money to save, it's not even funny. And I don't have help from an outside source at all. So I have to work my ass off, excuse my French, in the next couple months. And I am so driven and so motivated to make this happen. So Saturday, I'm going to be putting in so much hard work at my shift at my restaurant job to make this happen. So I can work, so I can move to my goal of sunshine and palm trees and ocean where I'm heading. So yeah, I can definitely relate to this. Having to be really driven and really, really disciplined, but having the motivation to plow through any circumstances that could potentially be standing in my way. So if you guys have any examples of where you might be relating to this energy, where it might be challenging, you might be faced with roadblocks and hurdles and obstacles and delays and setbacks and things like that, but you just feel so driven to make it happen that like nothing can stand in your way at all. So I think we're going to totally skip over Sunday because there's really nothing too prominent that day. I think we're going to still be dealing with a lot of these dynamics that I've already discussed. And we're going to move to the big kahuna of the week. Really, it's what we've been working up towards. We've been moving through this Mercury retrograde pre-shadow period. And like I explained in last week's forecast, maybe you guys missed it, maybe you didn't, but Mercury is going to be moving backwards from this 25th degree point all the way back to 10 degrees of Libra. So Mercury's already moved through all of these degree points. And that is what's called the pre-shadow period, where a lot of things pop up, maybe some themes or topics. Like I already said, I know, this external validation thing that I need is probably something that I'm going to be working with throughout this Mercury retrograde period. It's probably going to be playing itself out within my relational dynamics. And I'm pretty aware of that. Sometimes during the pre-shadow period, there are certain activations of things that will occur in the retrograde period. We might not even realize that they were significant events, right? So those things will be activated again, and this plot line thickens, right, as we move into the actual retrograde period. So as you can see here on the 27th, we've got Mercury at 25 degrees, which has hit its station point. Now, station days are the most intense, highly concentrated energy of the retrograde. So this day, I would say probably we're going to be feeling this on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. And hell, I mean, Mercury is going to be at this 25 degree point for several days after, because on this station, the planet actually slows all the way down, or appears to. It's an optical illusion. This is a very intense day where we might actually see some big events or hear some news or have some big significant occurrence. This is when the planet is the closest to Earth and is the most powerful, okay? Now, it's happening in the sign of Libra. We've already talked about this a little bit. We've got the sign opposite to Libra, which is Aries, which represents the self, the individual, right? And then we've got the opposite side, Libra, which rules over relationships. So it's the self operating with another, in a relationship dynamic. Libra, like I said, it serves as the mirror to the self. And it's the mirror through which we see ourselves in relationships. So this Mercury retrograde cycle is going to have a whole lot to do with that, which is kind of what we already discussed earlier. If you don't like what you see, it's time to make adjustments to that, right? And it could make us a little bit more uncomfortable. I would just like to caution you though, when we do have these discrepancies, miscommunications, these challenges that pose uh, themselves to us within relational dynamics, to look a little bit deeper, like I said, because the dispositor, the ruler of this Mercury retrograde is Venus, which is in the deep sign that seeks the truth of every situation of Scorpio. So look a little bit deeper. Like I said, don't blame your partner, don't blame your friend. Look below the surface. Look into your shadow. Okay. So I think that's going to be a really important little piece of advice for all of us during this time period. Now, Mercury retrograde planet or time periods, the reword comes into focus. And I think that this is a big time period of recalibration, which can be hard, right? It's always hard. Say, for instance, when we realize that we've maybe gained a little bit too much weight, and we haven't been exercising. We have to go through a period of recalibration, maybe where we do a cleanse and we have to start exercising for the first time in a really long time, and it hurts. And we're tired and we're sore. And all we want is a cookie, and we can't have it because we're on a diet. That is like a recalibration period, right? And that's kind of what we're moving through right now, okay? Where we might have fallen out of alignment with what we truly value. We may have fallen out of alignment with our partner within certain relational dynamics, or maybe we're not in alignment with certain people anymore, and we need to be made extra aware of that so that we can recalibrate, rebalance things out, and move on with our damn lives, right? Maybe we need to be brought to maybe what's fair in our relationships with others. What's just? Are we being treated correctly? Are we treating other people correctly? Are we playing nice, right? With other people? Those things are all going to be brought up to the surface here for all of us to take a look at. I just want you to be extra aware that there's a couple of things that you may want to prepare yourself for. I'm not saying that this will happen to everybody, but sometimes Mercury retrograde, very symbolically, as the planet appears to start moving backwards, we can experience certain reversals in life, right? I'll just give you an example. When basically Mercury retrograde hit Libra last year, for instance, I was having some issues with friendship, right? Where I didn't feel in alignment with certain friendships anymore. So I had moved away earlier in the year from a certain friend group. And I was healing from it. Everything was fine until Mercury retrograde in Libra hit. And it was Scorpio season, moving out of Libra season. And all of it was brought back up to the surface again. There was almost like a reversal. I seemed to care. It seemed to bother me once again. And I had to revisit all of those dynamics and work on letting it all go once again, revisiting certain karma that needed to be closed out once again. So like I said, some things can reverse themselves and become more prominent than you may have thought, right? You need to revisit certain dynamics once again. There can just be little frustrations or little annoyances. There can be delays with anything that you're trying to push forward, maybe certain negotiations, certain plans or projects that you've been working on. There can be delays and annoyances with the peace and harmony and balance that you have in your life, right? I would say any negotiation or contract, whether that be actual like marriage contract, paperwork, any, spoken contract that you have with another person, like friendship. These are like karmic contracts that we have, or spiritual contracts, I guess you can say, with other people, or real marriage contracts or business partnerships. These are all on the table. They're up for judgment, right? And I don't mean for you to like judge another person, but Libra is the sign of judgment. And it's basically that time of the year when the sun descends, like I said, down into the underworld. And the underworld was said to be representative of Hades. Another word for, I guess you could say, hell, which is a place where the soul goes to be judged of its experience here on planet Earth. Was it good? Was it bad? Where does it go from here? Kind of thing. And I think that this is a time when we will also be experiencing a lot of this, right? It definitely is. I mean, not like we're going to hell or anything like that, but it's the judgment of our relationships. It's the judgment of how we operate in them and where we need to make certain adjustments. There could be miscommunications in social interactions with other people. I'll give you a little example with that. I know that this is going to be challenging working in the public in the service industry. I'm a bartender at a fine dining restaurant, and I had a guest come in last weekend who was asking me for a type of wine that we have, but she didn't really know how to pronounce it correctly. And I literally did not understand what she was saying. I wasn't trying to be snotty. I'm not like a wine snob or anything like that. I literally just did not know what she was trying to say. I thought she was asking me for like a brand of wine. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I had to say it like a couple times. I'm like, I just don't know what you mean. Here's a menu. And then she pointed to it and I said, oh, Pinot Noir. And she got so mad at me. I think she thought I was being like condescending and that because she wasn't saying it properly or something, I wouldn't acknowledge her. And she was literally like rude to me the entire rest of the day. She kept saying mean things to me and it was just like crazy kind of, right? Typical Venus and Scorpio dynamic, and with the Mercury retrograde pre-shadow, miscommunications. So little things like that with social interaction. Oh, the joys, right? I want to let you guys know as well, this is a way you can determine if this Mercury retrograde period is going to be hitting you more impactfully than other people per se. Some retrograde cycles you might slide through with ease, and some you might get nailed. So here's a couple things that you could potentially look for in your chart. If you are looking, like I said, to get more information on this retrograde period, you can schedule a personal reading with me. All the information is in the description box below. So if you have any planets or any points within the cardinal signs between the degrees, I would say let's just go with 10 to 25 degrees. The Mercury is going to be either moving back and forth over your personal planets or points, or hard aspecting them hard in a square opposition. So this could be any personal planets or points. That's any personal planet, Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, I would say, would all be considered. Or maybe your ascendant, your descendant, your midheaven, or your IC in Libra, Capricorn, Aries, or Cancer. So you guys can check that out. It might be posing to be a bit more challenging for you. What if you have like a stellium of planets? That could probably be very challenging, especially if it's in one of those signs. Is it happening for you in an angular house, which is the 1st, 7th, 10th, or the 4th house? It will be probably much more prominent for you. And if you're in a Mercury ruled year, so if you are somebody who's very familiar with astrology and the technique of annual perfections, which is a traditional astrology technique, where every single year we go through is a different house comes into prominence. So if you are in a house, whatever house year that's ruled by Mercury, like myself, then this is probably going to be a very big Mercury retrograde. Probably for the whole year, the Mercury retrogrades will be affecting you very significantly. And finally, if you are somebody who has a chart that's ruled by Mercury, so that would be a Virgo ascendant or a Gemini ascendant person, then this is going to be more prominent for you. And finally, I just wanted to give you guys a couple do's and don'ts for Mercury retrograde, just to end this off and help you guys best prepare and navigate this time period. So one big do is first and foremost, get yourself in a positive mindset. just realize that Mercury retrograde time periods, like everything that pretty much happens with the stars, a lot of it has to do with our evolution and our growth as souls, right? We are on the journey of the transmigration of the soul from lifetime to lifetime. If that's not what you believe, that's fine, but just know that we are always growing from these transits. And it's trying to help us out and make us aware of something, right? So if you don't resonate with the transmigration, that's fine. But just know that we might not fully see the entire picture when you are, faced with roadblocks, challenges, obstacles, delays, miscommunications, and things like that. Just try to remain positive, and that will help you to get through these challenges better. Be as adaptable and flexible as humanly possible during this time frame, okay? So any changes that come, know that they might not be permanent, because Mercury retrograde period is usually when something happens during the retrograde period. After the retrograde moves forward, they could change again, right? So just be as adaptable and flexible during this time frame. Try to have a good mindset and good positive attitude. Work on old projects. Maybe find an old hobby that you used to work on, that you like to do. Do things that are already something that you've been doing. So this is not a time to initiate. And that leads me to one of the don'ts. Don't initiate things. Don't start new projects. Try not to start new jobs or new relationships if you have anything to do with it, okay? It's probably best not to do anything new at this time. So when we talk about old things, we can even do things with our business. Maybe not start a new business, but we can rebrand, we can re-strategize, we can rebudget, we can do all of those things with a business that we have already started. So if you're looking to start a new business, hell yeah, good for you, but just wait, okay? Just to tell you too, Mercury will be in retrograde until the 18th of October. And then we have the post shadow until November 2nd. We'll talk about that more in future forecasts. But another good thing to do, if you have like a client-based business, you can contact people that you've already worked with, and maybe see how they're doing, or see if they need your services again or whatever. That's a really good idea as well. If you are wanting to maybe back up the files on your computer or save your phone contacts. Sometimes Mercury retrograde can be kind of wonky with electronics and things like that. So we want to be extra careful and maybe prepare ourselves ahead of time for any type of technological malfunctions that could occur. I did lose an entire Macbook Pro that was not backed up at one time. So just keep that into consideration. In terms of electronics, don't purchase them. I wouldn't try to close a big sale or make a big sale or anything like that. No purchasing of electronics or anything like that during this time period. Just a couple more here I have for you. If you're going to be taking trips, if you can't avoid that, because Mercury rules over transportation and vehicles and short trips and things, which can be kind of problematic during this time period, travel and things associated. Just make sure you're extra prepared. Whatever you need to do, make sure there's a full tank in the gas tank, that you've taken your car to get it checked out before you take a long road trip across the country or whatever you're doing. Make sure you're preparing for that. Don't repair your car during a Mercury retrograde period. I also did that the last retrograde this summer, and go figure, there were issues with the oil change and everything, the tire rotation. I had to take the vehicle back in. So that can be a pain in the butt too. And if you are writing things, sending emails, sending texts, make sure you reread and triple read everything before hitting the send button. But that was a mouthful, and I told so many stories. This was probably a really long video. All right, so that is the end of my forecast. So I think that, we're heading into another pretty intense week, but we have a lot of really positive energy on our side to help us get through any challenges, any difficulties that may present themselves. So take that Mars, Saturn trine energy and say, hell yeah, let's power through this. Let's get this done. I know you guys are all super strong. Stay in a positive mindset. Leave me a comment below if you have any stories to tell, if you have any insights on any of these upcoming transits. I would love to hear from you guys. If you benefited anyway from this content, make sure to tap the like button and make sure to hit the subscribe button and the little bell icon next to it if you haven't done so already. I love you guys so very much. I'll see you in next week's forecast. Peace and namaste, my friends. Bye.